Hey guys, Rob John Webb here and welcome to this week's exclusive YouTube members video where I'm going to do a walkthrough of one of the tracks that I released last year. Now the track is called Sweet Heat and it came out on my Waxadisc label. It's like a disco sort of orchestral sort of piano stomping track that is massively influenced by Gino Soccio, however you pronounce his name, late 70s, early 80s disco star who mysteriously disappeared some years ago and was never seen or heard from again. But his music lives on, and I wanted to make a track like his Dancer record or his, some of his stuff that he made. And you'll hear the influence in this. If you're not familiar with Gino Soccio, go and listen to his stuff. It's absolutely brilliant. So anyway, this is the track, and I'm going to walk you through it and show you how simple it is by using very few instruments, a handful of drums, and how you can get the most out of it. So that's what I want to give you in this exclusive content, is basically the tips and the techniques to not overproduce, not worry too much about if it's got enough sounds in or not. Just strip it down and less is more approach on this occasion. So let's have a quick listen to the track. So as you can hear so far, it's got a synth brass, a arpeggiated bass line and a guitar riff along with the drums. And then in comes some strings. So that's the string build up, and then there's this part here with some hanging guitars, which is like strumming the chords. As you can see there. So it's quite energetic. It's kind of got a bit of Euro feel to it, but it's quite a bouncy track. And then it goes into a piano solo here as well, which filters up. So there you go, it's a really uplifting disco record, and I'm going to go through it all now and show you what I've done. So all I've done really is I've used a lot of sample pack drums on this one from the F9 series, which are really cool, and it's a pack you can buy for about 30 quid I think. And it's just got some really nice snappy snares. Them hi-hats come from something else which I'll break down for you in a minute, but it's got a live hi-hat there. And some claps, so live sounding claps, and then just a standard crash. And that's it for the drums. There's some close hats here, which are these. Just like an open hat and a close hat. Now they come from let me show you where they come from. They come from the SI drum kit. Now this is part of Cakewalk. Now if you've got a Windows PC, you can get this for free. It's a built-in live session drummer in the Cakewalk software. So you install Cakewalk and then you go into the files of it and take out the DLL file for this, put it into your Ableton one or your other DAW, as long as it's Windows, and you'll get this, it'll work like any of the VST would. And it's just got all these great sort of live drum sounds in it. It's really good. loads of kits. So the hi-hats come from that. So the beats, as I say, are very, very simple, very straightforward. Just really thumping. And on the kick, I put on a drum bus at about 10%, look, 9.5, and just EQ'd it nicely. Cut the bottom end out, around 23 hertz, but again, that depends what kind of kick you use. You want to cut out the bottom end a bit. So yeah, we've got that. And then with all the other drums, like the hi-hats, if you notice, if you look at my EQs, I don't know why I've used different EQs on here. I wasn't probably thinking straight. But if you notice, I've cut out the bottom end of all of the hi-hats. Here, look, it cuts it out. So basically, you're just cutting out that bottom muddiness that is not required, okay? And the same for the claps. The claps are cut out as well. So it just brightens it up at the top end, and your kick can do the rest. But regarding the snare, that's always a mid-range sort of, low to mid-range sort of EQ. Which is always a good thing to do. So, as I say, the drum's very basic, very simple, very straightforward. Next up then, I wanted to get the riff going. So I got this, the Monopoly, and it's this this analog trumpet sound, which is really cool. And it just sounds like this. And it's in F. So let's have a look. What have we got? There you go. And so on. So I just played in a very simple pattern using the blues scale technically. It's a pretty cool riff. And that's all it is. So to build on that, you've got the synth brass. If you want to get a synth riff and create a very simple sort of really cool, put some delay on it, and it just gives you a really sort of, you know, energetic feel. So on top of that, you need a bass. So obviously I was inspired by Gino's work, so I've put in a arpeggiated bass, and this goes like this. Really proper, solid arpeggiated bass. And this comes from the OBX, which is Synth Bass 1. And this is a free plugin. You can get this, just Google it. And it's the OBXD, and it's just the Synth Bass 1. And I've just kept it as it is. I think it's quite natural, to be fair. Okay, so what I've done though, I've arpeggiated it. Now the arpeggiator that I've used is a carrier arpeggio. So it's not one you can just drag on here like you would in the MIDI effects within Ableton. This is actually a third-party plugin. And it's called the Blue Arp, and it's free again. And it looks like that, and it's got tons and tons of presets in. You can do so much with this if you automate it and program it. But I've just kept it straightforward, hard hitting. Pretty cool. But what you've got to do is you've got to use it as a carrier, so you have to put that onto its own channel, put your MIDI on the arpeggiator channel, and then send the bass from there, from one separate channel, over to the arpeggiator one. So it works like this. If I can just show you on this screen here, look. I'm sending it from here, look, MIDI from the Blue Arp over to the Blue Arp here, look, and put it in on the monitor. And that's how it sends it. It's like almost like when you're using a vocoder. It's the same sort of process. Right. So I've done that, and what I've done with the arp, with the bass, is I put on this, again, another free, really good compressor from the Klanghelm. It's just called the MJU CJR compressor from Klanghelm. It's really cool. Really thickens the sound up. Gives it a lot of, listen, a lot of power. Take off that EQ. You know, and you've got a whole, it just gives it that extra bit of lift. So, you've got the bass, the arpeggiated bass, and you've got a synth brass. They're two key elements for this kind of Euro sort of sounding kind of, you know, disco. Next up, I wanted some strings. So the strings I've used, I wanted them to have that kind of quick sort of disco-y strings. So to use those, always use a staccato disco string sound. So I've got them from within Ableton, and they are in here, and it's a string ensemble, and it's basically just that one, string ensemble staccato. You can get these from anywhere. I mean, if you're not too familiar with downloading the Ableton packs, then just get a staccato string from anywhere, and just get a pattern that fits around the bass. Obviously, we're using the same sort of sound, so. And there we go. Build on it gently. So again, using simple sounds, not overdoing it, not putting too much stuff in. You know, if you look here, I've got a bass, a synth brass, a piano, a string, and guitar. And that's it, 5 instruments, and the drums, 6 instruments in total. Obviously, there's 2 layers of piano, and I'll show you that in a minute, or 3 layers actually. And then there's 2 layers of guitar, because one's a riff and one's a hanging notes. So that's that. Okay, for the guitars, these riffs here then. I put a multi-band compressor on there just so I could spread out the sound a bit and brighten it up a bit. So you hear without. Again, cut off the bottom end, look. Now, where I got that guitar riff from was from a plugin which is built into the Contact. Now, I paid for this, but if I show you how to do it, I'm going to give you, a tip on how to get this. So basically, it's called the Scarby Funk Guitarist, and it's here, and it looks like this. And with this, what you do is you can program in any guitar chord, with loads of different riff varieties. So in here, look, you've got, if I look at here, look, you've got all these different types, look, all of these, look, different, textures. And so you've got funk, you've got jazz, you've got rock, you've got all sorts of stuff in there. Mostly funk and whatever. And then what you do is you choose which one of these you want. So if we go to this one, look, if I choose Disco 70s Party, and then I double click on that, and it basically, if I find the key, there you go. And you basically assign each riff to one of the keys on the keyboard and then play it back in. So that's a pretty cool little package, really. It costs about $40, but you can basically map any one of these riffs to a key. So you go to chords, and then you go into here, look, and you choose all of the chords. So every C chord is in that list there, look. Every type of C major, C minor, C, C7, etc., etc. So it's a little bit of a faff, but it's really worth getting if you want to be to make funky disco music and stuff, and you can't play guitar and you don't want to use everyone else's riffs. You can just grab them from there. So that's the riff there. So then I programmed that into the chords of what I used, which was basically the C, the F, and the G note, I believe. So F, C, just F and C. Oh yeah, B flat. Yeah, so A sharp, B flat. So that's what I did with the riff. That's how I made that riff. And then again with the guitar hanging notes, that's where you just have the guitar go ding, strum it down. Same chords, but in the guitar Scarby pack, what you can do is you can choose the different types of guitar playing. So you can have strumming, you can have riffs, you can have hanging notes, chords, licks, all sorts of stuff. So that's what I did with that. I just did the same thing, but with a different tonality and a different preset on the Scarby. So does that look like this, look? Okay, so I wanted to break the track down. So what you want to do is when you're building a track, you want to have an instrumentational bit where it's just broken down with just claps and just piano or a string or whatever you want to use. So as you can see here, I've got the piano coming in, which is just basically the grand piano from Ableton, but it's filtered. And there you go, if you look at that, it's filtered up. And then come the other pianos, same piano sound. So what I've done is I wanted to have one section which just filtered up. I could have put that on that channel, But I just, for some reason, I don't know why, I think I EQ'd this slightly different to this one. That's why it's not on the same channel. And then, so this comes up here. These riffs here, I think are just like... somewhere along those lines. There you go, look. So it's basically just F minor. And then C minor. Okay, so just those two chords. And then it gets here and it just drops down to the piano, the chords on their own like this, look. Just little riffs here. Just this little riff. And then these are your chords. Just held down. So basically I've got, basically it's one instrument but just 3 layers. I think they've just all got different EQs on because of the depth of them. Because of the piano chords, if you have piano chords, you're going to have to want to EQ them differently to the lead line, because the lead line will be brighter because it's up here, it's higher up the octave. So you want to have separate EQs on them so that the lead piano comes in better in the mix. Just for me anyway. And then it all comes back in again. Same thing all the way, all the way. So it's basically just very repetitive, but what I've done is I broke it down each step of the way. So the first bit is just the art bass, then the guitar comes in, then the brass synth comes in, then the strings come in, the synth brass drops out, the guitar drops out, and it just has the hanging notes. Then everything comes back in again, then the strings come back in, then everything drops out, and then you just have the piano. So you have a breakdown, an instrumental breakdown with just claps in the piano, just something just to tail it along and build it back up, and then everything comes back in like one last hurrah, one last final lap, and then you break it down again. Just to bass again. So you come full circle. And then you filter the bass down. And just it fades down. I think the bass actually there is faded down on the track volume, if I just look. Is it not? Yeah, it has done there, look, because it comes down on this one. There, look. There you go, look. Because that's carrying it, that goes down there like that, and it just fades out. So basically, let's quickly go through all of that again. So I'm going to show you the basic main key elements of what we've done. So we've got a handful of drums, a simple fat kick, snare, close hats, claps, crash. No congas. You could put them in, but obviously I've not. And that's it. Just keep your drums simple. Live hi-hats. Try to use live hi-hats as much as you can. One synth brass or some kind of synthesizer lead line. An arpeggiated bass. Fat sort of synth bass, you know, a poly bass, something like that. Something thick. A piano. Separate your piano. Separate your chords. And then have your lead line, you know, separate so that you can EQ the lead line piano, which is higher in the octaves, it's more trebly and brighten that up so it comes out in the mix better. And then have a staccato string, so quick short stabs, disco-y strings, and the guitar riff. Just get a guitar riff. If you have to use a guitar loop, then by all means do so. You don't necessarily have to have a guitar in there, you know, but this kind of stuff lends it to that sort of sound. So that's it for this week's tutorial, this week's walkthrough. I hope you've gained from that. You know, get in touch with me, you know, and try and use these sort of sounds in your next track. See what you come up with. A thick, stomping, sort of arpeggiated disco house track using what are technically live instruments. The strings, the piano is like an upright piano, if you like, and a guitar, you know, proper live instruments, and some synth as well. But the focus is more on the live musical elements, such as the strings and the piano and stuff. So thank you and goodbye.